Today we are going to study about Napoleon Bonaparte, a great military genius who eventually rose to become the Emperor of France and brought almost the entire of Europe under his control. So we will be studying about his rise and the downfall of Napoleon. We see that Napoleon Bonaparte, he was born on the French island of Corsica in 1769. At the age of around 1819, he was commissioned as a lieutenant in the French army because of his great military skills, archery skills that he has, his leadership quality, and the great military genius that he was. He quickly rose through the ranks, and by the age of 24, he became a brigadier in the French army. He conducted many successful military campaigns. He made a great name in the France. The starting point was the revolt in Toulon. As soon as the French king was executed in 1793, there was a revolt in Toulon city of France, where the royalists, the one who was supporting the monarchy, they wanted the monarchy to be restored. So they rose up in rebellion against the revolution that had happened, against the revolutionaries. The foreign enemy countries like UK and Spain, and they were all providing support to this revolt that broke out in Toulon. They wanted the monarchy to be restored in France. So we see that it was very difficult to control that revolt, but Napoleon could, with his great leadership, suppress that revolt, and that made him a huge name in the France. That brought a lot of laurels to his name, and then he carried on many successful military campaigns which made him quite popular in France. 1792 to 1795, the National Convention, which was elected by the National Assembly during the French Revolution, it became the governing body. But it could not manage the financial crisis and the chaos that was going on in France. So it was soon replaced by the Directorate. From the period 1795 to 1799, the Directorate or the Directory, which was a body comprising of five people, it was a five-member committee who managed the affairs of France. But then again, we see that even the Directory could not solve the financial crisis. People were still poor, there was still financial crisis, starvation problems. France was still at war with many foreign countries who were trying to gain control over the France during these chaotic times. In November 1799, we see that Napoleon by then had made a great name in France because of his military accomplishments. He overthrows the Directory and he proclaims a new constitution. And from 1799 till 1804, Consulate became the governing body. Consulate comprised of three members, three councils, of which Napoleon was elected as the first consul in 1799. But in 1804, Napoleon proclaims himself as the Emperor of France. So this is quite ironical. There was this French Revolution which was all about overthrowing the monarchy and not having a monarch or an emperor as the head. But again in 1804, we see soon after the revolution, Napoleon comes and proclaims himself as the Emperor of France. But his success was so much appreciated by the people, the military accomplishments that he brings about, many foreign territories that he brings under the control of France. He revives the glory of France. This made the people gain faith in him, and they have no objection raised when he proclaims himself as the emperor. So there is a referendum, and people by choice elect him as, they accept him as the new emperor. So Napoleon becomes the new emperor of France from 1804. Napoleon not only did successfully manage many military campaigns, military successes, bringing about the expansion, bringing many countries, many regions under his control, but he also brought about a lot of developmental work in France. He brought about the construction of many buildings, many canals, water supply, all these developmental works was also done. One of the famous contribution of Napoleon is the Code of Napoleon. The Napoleonic Code that he introduced was basically the famous French civil code that was supposed to have a formal law or legal system in the country. Until now, we see that there was no proper standardized legal system or law in France. Every region they had their own feudal laws remaining, where the feudal lords they will make their own laws, the governing body would make their own laws, the authority impose taxes and exert any kind of injustice on people. There was no standardization of laws. So this is what is introduced by Napoleon, the famous French Civil Code, as per to which France would now have a formal law legal system, and it replaced the feudal laws. It was to create a rational law, that these laws would be applicable on all the individuals of France, irrespective of which region the person belongs to. They'll be applicable on each and every person. Napoleon believed in the rule of law, and his Napoleonic Code, which brought about the standardization of this legal system, formal law, introduced the formal law legal system in the country. It also became a model for legal systems in other European countries. The Napoleonic Code of Law still influences, or still has been continued to a lot of extent, to the present day legal system of France. Napoleon was a great military genius. He conducted many military campaigns and he was successful in almost all of them. France was invaded by many countries during the time of French Revolution. Prussia, Austria, Spain, Holland, England. We are aware France entered into war with Prussia and Austria when even Louis XVI was alive, when Prussia Austria tried to re-establish monarchy in France. So all these countries, they were looking for chances to take advantage of the chaos of the revolution in France and take control over France. So they were attacking one by one. During the time of French Revolution, France had to put up with war, was on war with all these countries. France could not only successfully defend the nation, but under the great leadership of Napoleon, it even managed to occupy parts of Spain and Italy. So such was the great military leadership of Napoleon, that they not just defended their boundaries in the time of chaos when there was a revolution going on and attacked by all these foreign powers, but it also could successfully expand the boundaries and go on to conquer the areas of Spain and Italy as well. But having defeated many European powers, the Napoleon still had the ambition of defeating England. England was a very strong power on the waters. It had a very strong naval army. It was almost impossible to defeat England on the sea because their naval fleet was really very strong, and no other European power had such strong naval fleet. So Napoleon was very ambitious and he was very determined to defeat England. In 1805 happened the Battle of Trafalgar. This battle happened between France and England. Napoleon led the French troops, but again here we see Lord Nelson from England. He finally managed to defeat Napoleon's fleet, and so we again see that Napoleon's ambition was shattered here to defeat England. England is almost impossible to defeat on the water because of its strong naval power. So here again the England stands undefeated and Napoleon has to retreat back. In December 1805, Napoleon goes on to defeat the combined army of Austria and Russia. So we see that Austria, Russia, Prussia, all these countries were one by one, or sometimes coming up together. They were forming treaties among themselves, coalition among themselves, and they were having a battle with France. They were trying to, have a battle with France, and UK was always against France. It had been providing help directly or indirectly to all the nations who were at fight with France. So here in 1805, Austria and Russia, they form a coalition, they come up together, and there happens this Battle of Austerlitz between France on one side led by Napoleon and Austria and Russia on the other side. But again in this battle we see the great military leadership of Napoleon, and he defeats the combined forces of Austria and Russia in the Battle of Austerlitz. So by now almost we see that entire Europe, it had come under the control of Napoleon's rule. The Tsar of Russia, Tsar is the monarch. That is the term Tsar used in Russia for the monarch. The Tsar of Russia, he even became his ally. Although till now we see that Russia was against France, but after being defeated by France in the Battle of Austerlitz, a treaty is signed and the Tsar of Russia says, okay, now we can maintain friendly terms with each other. Tsar of Russia becomes the ally. Almost the entire Europe, Prussia part is crushed. Austria, almost half of the Austria was conquered, taken control over by Napoleon. Portugal, Spain, Holland, France, Italy, Prussia, Russia, Austria, Norway, these all regions were brought under the control of Napoleon. So Napoleon controlled almost the entire of Europe except for England. England still remained undefeated, and it was known to Napoleon that it is almost impossible to defeat them on the sea because of their strong naval fleets, strong naval power, which France did not have. You can have a look at the empire of Napoleon during the time of 1810. So in green part you can see this is the French Empire. This all is the French Empire that was there. Countries that were brought under Napoleon's control, these green regions, you can see this Spain, this here this the Rhine region. These were the Germany did not exist as a nation then. There were many small German states, German speaking states. So it was a loose kingdom known as the Holy Roman Empire. So these states, they were also brought, King of Naples, and this region was also brought under control by Napoleon after having this war of Austerlitz, this Grand Duchy of Warsaw. This was also brought under the control of France by Napoleon. Then Russia, it became an ally of Napoleon, so it was a country with allied with Napoleon, and we see this Great Britain was the rival with France. It was not defeated as yet, it was not an ally, it was always at war with France. We have been seeing that since even during when we were studying the American Revolution, we saw the 7 years war that happened between Great Britain and France. So Great Britain was a great rival of France. So you can see the great control that Napoleon had built up all across the Europe. Now we see that England was the only region that stayed undefeated by Napoleon because of its strong naval power. So Napoleon thinks that it is very difficult to defeat England on the sea, but it can be defeated through economic warfare. If not through military warfare, we can think of other ways to defeat England, and he thinks of an economic warfare. So he introduces this continental system. Now, what is this continental system? He imposed embargo on England. Now, what is embargo? Embargo is banning any kind of trade or any commercial activity with any country. So Napoleon, as you had just seen in the map, he had almost acquired the whole of Europe, either his own country, the France, or the countries that he had brought under his control, or there was Russia, which was an ally or say friend of France. So when he imposed embargo in England, he says that all the European nations, he says to all the European nations under his control, friends with his nation, the allies, that they are not going to trade with England now on. There is going to be total ban of trade with England. There is no exchange of commodity happening, no import will happen, no export will happen. And England thrived well on the trade only. Its main source of income, money, wealth was trade with other countries and especially with Europe. So he says we are going to ban trade with England and they are going to suffer financially. So all the European countries, they were restricted from indulging in trade with England. This economic blockade, blocking of England economically by not indulging in trade with them, this was known as the continental system. This is the continental system that no European nation, no European region will be having trade relations with England. You can have a look. So this is what economic blockade was supposed to happen. These all regions, as you can see, These all regions of Europe, they were either occupied, the France region, or these were occupied by Napoleon or the allies of. They were all forbidden. They were all prohibited from indulging in trade with UK. There's going to be no trade, no exchange of commodities, to bring about financial crisis in United Kingdom. This was the plan of Napoleon, and this is known as the Continental System. So now talking about invasion of Russia, we see that what happened when Napoleon introduces the continental system throughout Europe. The Tsar, that is the monarch of Russia, here it is missing, you can just correct it, here it is supposed to be Russia, the Tsar of Russia, he refused to obey the continental system. It said that European nations are not producing all the commodities, our requirements cannot be fulfilled from amongst ourselves. We need to have trade with UK. We cannot continue with this continental system. So it simply refused. So Napoleon, he had defeated Russia in the Battle of Austerlitz, as we studied, and in the treaty he had imposed friendly terms with Russia because he thought that now Russia is going to act as its ally. But when it's refused to obey the continental system, Napoleon got furious that it is not an ally, it's not acting as a friend, so we are now going to invade Russia. So in 1812, Napoleon went to invade Russia, but it turns out to be a great disaster. He goes there with a huge army, but the severe winter, the temperatures in Russia fell to almost minus 30 degree, minus 40 degrees Celsius. There was huge shortage of food supply to be provided. He reached till Moscow, but then he had to retreat back. The army of Russia just retreated back and was not ready to face them. So finally, Napoleon, because of the shortage of food supply and the severe winter, he had to retreat back with his army. He had gone there with some around 450,000 soldiers to invade Russia, and when he returned back, only 10,000 of them were left. The rest of them, they died because of the severe winter, because of the long journey, because of the shortage of food supply. So you can imagine the kind of disaster. He went there with such large number of soldiers, but he lost 500,000 of his well-trained soldiers just because of the severe cold that they cannot tolerate. So it turned out to be a complete disaster for Napoleon. You can have a look how the severe winter, there's all snow and these soldiers, they are dying. There's no supply, there's no crop could be grown, so there was no food supply. They had gone too much inside of they had reached to the point of Moscow. They had gone too much well deep within Russia, so they could not even get supplies from France, and they suffered a lot because of this invasion of Russia. So after this disastrous campaign of Napoleon, eventually began the downfall of Napoleon. Seeing the disaster that Napoleon suffered during the Russian campaign, losing so many soldiers, many European nations, they thought that this is the right opportunity, that Napoleon is a great military genius, and seeing him conquer all these regions, he was a clearly target for many. He was a threat to all the nations. So they thought to form a coalition against Napoleon. In 1813, the very next day, in 1812, he had the disastrous campaign in December against the Russia, when he invaded Russia. In 1813, the combined army of Britain, Austria, Russia, Prussia, they come up together and they defeat the army of Napoleon in the Battle of Leipzig. So we see that Britain has always been against France, and this time all the powers, they come up together. Austria, Russia and Prussia, they all team up together, and they have this Battle of Leipzig where they together defeat the army of Napoleon. So Napoleon is defeated in 1813 and he is sent on exile to the island of Elba. This is the island close to Italy. There's this island of, so this is Elba. This is the island which is close to Italy. Now again, he was sent here and he was exiled for life, that he will never come back to France, and his sons or any relative of his can never become the emperor of France again. He was sent on certain terms and conditions. And here, but in Elba, he was given a great mansion here and he was allowed to rule this island of Elba. But Napoleon, being such a great person, a great military genius that he was not satisfied with this life. He was a very ambitious person. He stayed there hardly for 9 months and he managed to escape from Elba and he returns back to France. He escapes from Elba, reaches France there, and then he raises an army. He manages to get back to France, raise an army, get the support of people, and then he fights a battle against the combined army of England, Holland, Austria, and Prussia. So when he comes back to France, there is an alarm raised among all the European powers that Napoleon is back and he might now take revenge for everything and he might again rise to power, and that would be really problematic. So majorly all the European nations finally come up together against Napoleon to defeat him. England, Holland, Austria, Prussia, everyone. In 1815, finally, in the Battle of Waterloo, finally Napoleon is defeated by the combined forces of England, Holland, Austria, Prussia, and all these main powers. And this time he is exiled to the island of St. Helena, which was quite far off place, an isolated island, where he finally died in 1821. You can have a look at the St. Helena. It is somewhere close to Africa, this region. It is isolated far from place so that he cannot come back from here, and there he stays until he dies in 1821. So that is the end of this chapter and the learning about Napoleon.